Jerry, Mother was pregnant when we drove from Fairborn, Ohio to California, where I was being transferred. And we were very close to the time Jerry was due. So we had to drive very carefully and make sure Mother was able to get rest and so on. Well, we bought a house, or I went and bought a house on Lerwick Road, which is in Sacramento. And I was stationed at McClellan Air Force Base. And I guess we hadn't been there for more than 3 or 4 weeks. And Jerry, Mother had to go to the hospital. And the hospital at, there was another base somewhere nearby, I can't remember the name of it. Another Air Force installation where the hospital was, that I had to take Mother for the delivery. And they gave her a spinal tap. And the only child that was born with that was, the doctor wanted her to do it. And I told her that it was not up to him to make that decision unless there was a critical reason for it. That it was up to her to say whether she wanted it done that way or not. And so she said, oh no, I'll go along with the doctor. So that was, and she wasn't hurt.
It was fun.
She had an easier time of it than she would have had
Without it.
done any other way, so it was the right idea. So.
And that was with Jerry?
That was when Jerry was born.
Wow.
And we stayed, and I've forgotten now how soon after he was born we left California. We stayed quite a while. Oh, I got an overseas assignment from there. That's right.
Oh, from California, then you went overseas?
Yeah, I moved back to Ohio so Mother would be around people she knew and what have you. And we put her back in Fairborn, where Vaughn and Jean lived just a few blocks away. And Vaughn, of course, would oversee her while I'm gone. And then she had other friends that we had made. So I went on overseas then.
Was, how long were you in?
That's when Rick was born.
Oh, when you were overseas?
No, before I left,
Oh.
I got a delay in my departure until after the birth. And as soon as the birth was, and a few days had passed where Mother was deemed to be in good condition, no problems, then I could go to Europe.
And how long were you there?
18 months.
Oh, wow. And did you visit at all during the 18?
Yeah, one time.
So the first 18 months of Rick's existence.
Well, I was back at the end of the 9 months, so right in the middle of the 18 months.
Gotcha.
And they did me a favor to send me back because too many other people were scheduled for that, and I didn't have the seniority in terms of how that was developed.
What did you bring back?
I was a tremendous asset to this team. I was with the Inspector General's office, and I did some splendid work and got recognition for it. And it was because of that work that it reflected credit upon our organization in total. So the colonel, I worked for a general officer there, but the colonel that was his deputy, he called me in, and he said, Jack, all of us are very pleased with what you've accomplished here. Uniquely excellent and just outstanding work. And we'd like to recognize that by allowing you to take a vacation back to the mainland because of your family and what have you that are home there. And so you may take, I forgot, 10 or 15 days off. And so I got on an airplane, flew back to Ohio.
What'd you bring home with you that time? Did you bring something from Europe back to Mom?
Probably not, because it all happened like bang overnight.
Oh, it was too fast.
And I didn't have time to do it. I didn't know I was going, and all of a sudden I was.
Because like the Calliope, didn't you bring that back? No?
Oh yeah, but later, not
Oh.
then. I think the most significant thing about that trip, aside from just being home and back with the family again, is I got on the airplane and some tech sergeant, I'm a major now, and I've been with the Inspector General's office and I know my responsibilities in that role. So this tech sergeant, who's kind of the guy that is in charge of the passengers to make sure they're seated properly and meeting all the requirements and regulations. So he has to give a briefing before we even start the engines to go out. And I know the procedure because I'm with the Inspector General's office. I know those kind of things. And he is demonstrating he said, if this airplane has a problem, if we go down into the water, you all will freeze to death in a matter of minutes because this was in December, see. So you have to have protection. So we have these rubber suits that there's one in the airplane under your seat. Every passenger here has got one, and you put this on if we're going to go into the water, that's all. And that's all the briefing. And I said, wait a minute, Sergeant. I said, the regulation requires that you demonstrate that suit, and I want you to put it on so that people can see how it goes on and how it fits and whatever. And he was pissed off, I could tell, but he did it. But when he did, the rubber split from top to bottom. And I said, how old is that suit? And he gets the box that he took it out of and looks at, and it says, disregard, I'd forgotten how it said it, but it said, disregard after this date, which was months ahead of it. Should have been already changed. And so I said, well, how do I know, Sergeant, that the one under my seat's not old too? No, that wouldn't be the case. And I said, Sergeant, I want every one of those pulled out and checked. And in the meantime, you may advise the pilot that this airplane is grounded until that inspection is complete. Well, it turned out that every one of them was outdated. Every one of them. So I said, well, if this airplane is to fly with passengers aboard, you have to get brand new suits and have put on this airplane. And the captain came back. He was a captain, I was a major, but he was captain of the airplane, and that makes him the boss, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm sorry, I'm with the Inspector General's office, and I have no alternative. I must report this. And he knows immediately that he's going to be criticized because he, as the captain, should have done this before me. And so I said, maybe I don't have to write there's a certain type of report that goes straight to the generals, it doesn't go through GO or it doesn't stop anywhere, it goes to the top. So I said, I won't write one of those reports if you get the suits changed and you can get underway in the appropriate time so that we don't have to cancel a flight. And he said, okay, we'll get that done. So they get out and they're running like hell, and finally did get a supply of brand new suits, and they put them aboard.
Of course, you're trying to get home too.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't tell them that.
Yeah.
But
Oh my gosh.
at any rate, the only other thing that happened on that flight was we get about halfway home and run into the damnedest storm you ever saw. Lightning and thunder and wind. Oh, it was just awful.
Mid-flight?
Huh?
Like while you're flying?
Yeah. And we had one lightning bolt that hit the airplane.
Oh my gosh.
Boy, and fire just rolled off the wings and everything. I could see it.
Oh,
But that's all that happened. It was okay. It didn't hurt us. But it scared the living hell out of us.
was it loud?
We stopped at Azores to pick up some passengers there. They were all Navy sailors. No brass at all, just Navy. And but they were all drunk because the airplane was delayed getting all these suits
So they were all
fixed up.
waiting.
So they all were drinking while they were waiting for the airplane. So they were drunk as hoot owls. And because of that, without me having to say a word, although I was prepared, they put an extra latrine on, which was a portable toilet. And the reason they did is because these guys never flew in airplanes, and so they didn't know if they'd get sick or not, and here they are drunk. So they put this extra one on so that if they had a situation where everybody was getting sick, there'd be room to have them taken care of. And so they took off with that on, and sure enough, some of those guys got sick as hell. And I didn't mind it. I mean, I felt a lot of sympathy for them. but the odor from it,
Ah.
awful, in the whole airplane. I didn't think, I thought I was gonna get sick because of the odor. But nobody did except the sailors, they're the only ones.
Yeah.
That was
Oh my
awful, and
gosh.
they were all miserable.